Well, hey, it never fails. Someone always asks me, hey, Heather, what about? And honestly, that's where the best conversations begin. I'm Heather Shaw, certified functional nutrition coach and Pilates educator. After walking through my own wellness journey, hello 80-pound weight loss, I now light the path through my program, The Plan, complete with protein-forward recipes, hormone know-how, and a lifestyle for longevity. This is the Exquisite House Pilates and Wellness podcast. Hey, Heather, what about? We're diving into all things movement, menopause, metabolism, and more, especially the stuff no one warned us about. I tell it like it is, but always with a wink and a hug. No perfection required, just consistency, curiosity, and better questions, served up with a side of sass. Well, hey, today is a very special episode. We are interviewing my very dear friend and comrade in podcast arms, Terri Mullen. Terri is a midlife entrepreneur, author, coach, podcast host, and founder of the Redlo Women Network, a membership-based community that empowers aspiring and established entrepreneurs to launch and grow online businesses in a changing world. Terri, I cannot say thank you enough for being here. I'm so excited. You are the reason that this podcast exists. You pushed me hard in the sweetest way. And
Yep.
I am just thrilled that you're here. So, to get into things, I want to ask a little bit about your journey, because I know that there's been a transformation. You were a stay-at-home mom for a long time. Prior to that, you were a very successful hairdresser who I absolutely loved my styles that you did on my hair.
Woohoo!
But talk to us about you've become such a strong voice, and part of that was you writing your book, Stepping Forward. So talk a little bit about that and the kind of the behind the scenes of how all of that evolved and how you got into just that kind of stepping in the water there.
Sure. And first of all, I just want to say thank you because we have known each other for a long time. And as I was saying before we started to hit record, I'm on the other side of being the interviewer, not the interviewee very often. And this challenges me a bit. So thank you. Thank you for trusting me to help you launch your podcast and for having me here today. I'm excited. I'm really, really excited to do this. So just a little background. I've been married 36 years. And like you said in the beginning, I have my own career for a very long time and grew up in an entrepreneurial family. My grandfather, at the age of 45, left this larger metropolitan area, moved to this tiny town and on the Columbia River and bought this little tiny cafe at 45 and decided he was going to start new. And so he grew that business into a very, very successful restaurant. And sold it at the age of 90. So that was kind of my benchmark. And my grandfather only had an 8th grade education. So for me, growing up, I learned so much from him, just from that perspective. And then I helped my mom launch a couple businesses. And then when Scott and I got married, once we started to have kids, I was like, okay, it's going to cost a lot for childcare. And so I decided to stay home like you shared in the beginning. And that was a hard decision for me because my parents had divorced. I became very, very independent. And I always held on to that. I wasn't sure that I wanted to ever give that up. And so that was a very, very pivotal decision for me. And what I realized, raising our kids were some of the happiest moments of my life. But when I wanted to step back into it, it was like, okay, who am I now? It's been all these years I've been home. What am I qualified to do? Who's going to hire me? I mean, all the things. And I actually went back to work. I went to interview with someone. I was like, okay, where do I even begin? Like writing a resume just seemed like, how do I write a resume? Like, and he said to me, Terri, whatever you do, I think going back to work in the corporate space is going to be really hard for you. You're an entrepreneur. I'm like, really? How did you figure that out in just a few minutes? He's like, oh, it's so obvious. He said, you forget, I interview people all the time. And he was right. I mean, that's kind of how I started. I went back to work. I ended up doing a couple things. I got my real estate license. And then I ended up working at Nordstrom. And I went back. I worked at the makeup counter, moved up very quickly, became counter manager. But long story short, what ended up happening in that time was that I realized, wow, I really want to help women. I want to help women move forward. And it kind of became, I want to help women step forward. And prior to that, once I had been home for a long time, Scott had decided that he wanted to move back to California. We were living in Austin, Texas at the time.
Yes.
And I didn't, he wanted to move back and I didn't want to move. I didn't want to leave. And we did it anyway. We sold that. He put the house on we put the house on the market, and I begged and pleaded. And that was a whole very, very, very pivotal time in my life. And I realized at that moment that, okay, really, really, what's next for me here? And, who am I? Where's my voice? Where's my voice for my life? And I kind of went on this mission to kind of, figure things out and figure out what I wanted to do. But I decided in that moment that I wanted more. And writing a book has always been something I wanted to do. It's always been one of my goals. And I had kind of tucked that dream up on the shelf for a long time. And then I just decided, why not? Why not give this a try? Why not write my book? And actually, if you want, I don't know where we're all going to go with all this, but I read a chapter. I mean, I could read a chapter to you in the book about what that journey was and where that self-discovery journey kind of started. It's pretty emotional for me because we had created this house. I didn't want to move to Austin, Texas to begin with.
I know,
Scott,
I remember.
right? Remember? Right? You knew. But Scott was the breadwinner, and he felt like he had this really great opportunity, and we basically got our dream house. And we created this amazing backyard, the whole thing. But when it came time to leave, then I didn't want to leave. Then it was like,
Yeah.
but I've been here for 13 years. So I don't want to leave all my friends. But we did. And so that became my journey. I hope I'm answering your question, but from here we can probably go wherever you want to go with this interview. But I just decided that if I had been through these really hard things, then I somehow need to be a voice for other women that have been through that. I didn't want them to feel alone. I wanted women to feel seen and heard and valued and reminded that they belong, no matter where they were on their journey in life. At the end of the day, our experiences make us who we are. And if I can be one voice for one woman out there and just empower her, then that was my goal. And so I did. It's a little bit messy, but I did it, So this is where it all started. I say now, there I stood in the foyer, alone, tired, depleted. Time stood still. It was eerily quiet, vacant, and void, much like me. I waited as my best friend, Catherine, who lived up the street, slowly walked down the driveway with a drink in her hand. As the large chunk of ice slowly melted in the Texas humidity, so did my heart. If I cry, don't be surprised. With tears in my eyes, I opened the door and I collapsed into her arms, sobbing. She handed me the drink and said, "Come on, we're going to do what we do best. We are going to have one of our long chats. I could not let you close this door alone." Wow, I needed those words. I needed to know that I was not alone. I needed her friendship. I needed her strength. And as sad as she was that day, she was strong for me. The packers and movers had finished. I could barely look up from the beautiful Brazilian cherry hardwood floors beneath me, the same beautiful floors that I had walked across 1,000 times over the years. Suddenly, they seemed to ground my very unsteady feet and weary soul. Catherine put her arm around me, and together we closed the door and slowly walked up that long driveway to her house one last time. I could not look back. I kept walking forward, putting one foot in front of the other. I kept thinking, take one step. That's all you need to do. Right, left, right, left. It was that moment, that day, that time, that decision, and a few decisions that followed that changed me forever. It changed us too. I will never forget the love that my best friend showed me that day. The knot in my stomach, the walk up that long driveway, feeling like I was walking through mud with 1,000 miles ahead of me. I didn't want that moment to end, and yet at the same time I did. And I go on to say that I was hurting and I was grieving and that decisions are hard, but I remember how that one decision to sell our home and move back made me feel. I remember closing the door and deciding I would need to open a new one, to step forward, to let go, to embrace my own dreams, to find my voice and rediscover who I was. And so the journey of self-discovery began, and that's where it began.
That is so powerful, and I think about, like, my story. This is my last marriage. That's how
Right?
I say it, like, I'm not doing this again. Um, and I think that we can't get to this place in life and not have those moments that change us, and I think the thing that sets you apart in my mind is that your purpose is very much about helping other women. There's a lot of women who write books, but there are not a lot of women who say, I don't want somebody else to go through what did
Mm,
alone. I want to hold somebody's hand. And I think that's what sets you apart in this midlife um, kind of genre of where we are. And I think that for me, that really is an attractive piece of what you do and your story and how you communicate from your platform out into the world. It
mm,
it really like, I just know for me, I would not be attracted to somebody who really was about telling their story and just telling their story. It's more
mm,
about that you're leading with, "I wanna help somebody," and I think that's really
yeah,
powerful, um, which
yeah,
is why I love that you took the leap and said, "Okay, I wanna figure out what it is that I went through and how to make this into something that other people can glean from." I think there's a
right.
lot of power in that. Um
Thank you.
so all that said,
Sorry.
um, the identity crisis that we go through as women, I've talked about. The
Yeah.
episode previous to us, we did I interviewed a gal who's a NP in an aesthetic practice. And so we talked about how we feel invisible as we age. And I really appreciate that you're very much
Yeah.
in the space of like, I'm not going to disappear just because I'm here. Like, I still have
Right.
things to do. And you really work from that place. What is it in that whole change that brought you to, okay, I'm actually going to write the book now?
Much just what you've described, that I wanted women to just not feel alone and know that this is part of our journey, that men don't struggle with these things the way women do.
No.
And I have a very type A husband, so they just don't struggle the same way they do, and it's a very, very real thing, and I think even now as technology moves forward even more, I think I always want to just empower women and help them believe that it's never too late. Everything's
Yeah.
learnable, everything's figure outable. And I actually had written down, and I think I quote this in my book too, but there were two psychologists, maybe you've even heard of them. I think it's Pauline Rose Clance and Suzanne Imes. They were two
Huh.
psychologists that actually founded the term imposter syndrome. It originally
Oh,
started from, yeah, back in 1978, they wrote a paper, and it was about the imposter phenomenon that high achieving women have. And it's just fascinating. They studied all these women who achieved high things, but somewhere in our DNA or the way we're wired, we feel like we're like somebody's going to really find out who we are and we're not qualified. And, as you know, I don't have a college degree. I went away to college thinking that's what I wanted to do. My parents divorced. I was a hot mess. I developed an eating disorder, all kinds of things. I had no business being there. And I wanted to be a doctor. And for so long felt like I was such a failure. And yet I had done all these amazing things in my life. So it's just something that we do, and I think for me, I will never come from a place that I'm all-knowing. I always want to be so transparent that I've walked this path, I understand these feelings. I've been a hot mess myself at times, and just to be that champion and encourager for them, and I think when I think about my superpower, it's definitely encouraging women and getting them to believe in themselves, and that's
agree.
kinda where it all came from. So, I hope that answered
I love
that.
that. Yeah, I love that. Um, what so we're talking about women in midlife and your platform. So I listen to your podcast all the time and I
Thank
talk
you.
about your podcast on social. If anybody's on Instagram, follows us on Instagram, they know that I listen to a podcast on the way in, and one of the voices that I listen to is yours. The
Thank
the
you.
big reason is because I appreciate that cheerleader kind of grounding of where you come from. There is nothing in what you say that is um limiting. And if
Mm.
anything, I've joked with you that you're like the softest person to kick my butt ever. Like I didn't know. Like I got off the call and I'm like, wait a minute, what just happened here?
Yay! That's awesome.
So um talk to me about, because you've coached several women. I mean, lots of women. This isn't just your first foray into this. You've been doing this for a minute. What are some of the things that you think are the biggest hurdles or limiting beliefs or blockades that we have to overcome as women when we start to kind of find our new voice?
Probably just much what I've just said. I think what I see more than anything, doubt holds us back. More than anything. And in comparison to men, for sure, no matter what we've achieved, we always feel like we're less than or we're not qualified. And so I think getting people kind of to the finish line and getting women to believe in themselves is really probably the biggest hurdle at times, and that's always the fun part for me is just getting them to see themselves as I see them. And I think too, having someone walk beside you, like, even with your business, doing what you do and empowering women to feel good about their bodies and giving them tools and being there and cheering them on too. You do the same thing when you have somebody that's walked that path just like you have, who's been there. That can be the biggest um type of support of all is just, hey, I've been where you are. And I think if we come from that place of empathy and compassion, it's just such a powerful way to really have an impact on somebody's life because you're not just coming from a place of head knowledge, you're coming from a place of experience. And so I think for me, it's always I always find a way I can connect with someone. And that kind of happens naturally for me, but always just coming from I'm not better than you are. I've been here too, sharing the messy parts of myself. And if I can get here, you can get here too. If I can do this, if I can write a book, so can you. If I can start a podcast, so can you. If I can do a business, so can you. It's hard. So I guess that's it. It's doubt is the number one thing that holds many of us back. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, hey, if you've been nodding along to today's episode and thinking, I need more of this in my life, I want to personally invite you to subscribe to Inside the Plan, our private newsletter for folks in midlife who are ready to feel like themselves in their body again. Each week, I send real practical strategies to help you balance hormones, reduce inflammation, support your metabolism, and understand why what used to work just doesn't anymore. These are the same tools, tips, and mindset shifts I teach in my full program, and I don't share them anywhere else. So if you want to learn how to build meals that nourish you, support weight loss with or without GLP-1s, and feel like yourself again, this is for you. You can sign up at theexquisitehouse.com, click memberships and packages, then click Inside the Plan. I think you're going to love it. All right, back to the episode. We know that we feel lost in our old roles. We know that there's this place of like, the kids are gone. I'm done
Right.
with whatever career I was in. I don't know if I have this voice. How do you help someone? What are the things that you say or think, or like, what's happening up there in that brain of yours that you say, this is how I want you to think, and this is what I want to convey to you? Where does that fit in all this?
I think first and foremost, always, it's taking a look at where you've been in your life. Dan Sullivan talks a lot about like standing in the gap as women and high achieving women. And you're probably like this too a little bit. I know I am, where I gloss over the things that I've done
Mhm.
instead of just taking a beat and looking back, maybe even creating a timeline for what got me here? Like, what have I done? What have I done well? Because I think there's always the default to go to the negative, but think about and write it out. I've had women do this, like write out what you have done to get here. And I think sometimes we just surprise ourselves. We're like,
Yeah.
whoa. And I think when we do that honest assessment, it kind of becomes concrete, like, about what you already have done to get to where you are. And I think I've had people take different tests too to kind of see what your strengths are, those strength finder kind of things. Those are kind of fun.
Mhm.
I don't always love those tests, but they will help if somebody's really kind of stuck. But I think mostly just looking back over your life and talking it through. You know, I remember helping coaching one woman that I thought she was so quiet in a lot of these different places that we were kind of connecting. And then when I actually went to coach her and I was looking back, she sent me the results of one of those tests that she took. And I was like, wait, she's super extroverted. And it was crazy. And then to go back through and talk through that, like what happened along the way that you felt like your
Mhm.
voice had to be silenced, like you
Yeah.
don't fit, so it's kind of those things. I kind of have also that keen ability to kind of draw that out and just really, that's really it. Looking back at and paying attention to the words that women say to me. Like we
Mhm.
say things, we give clues. It's just a matter of listening and paying attention, um, which I love to do. I love to listen. So, yeah, that's it, I think.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's one thing you and I do very well is we say, "I love that."
We do. We
I'll
do
listen
say
to
that a
you.
lot.
I'll listen to you interview someone and I'm like, "Oh, Terry's saying the same thing I do."
Yeah, exactly.
What do you say to women who say it's too late?
Huh.
Because I mean, we're at a certain place. Like I'm in my mid-50s, pushing 60. You're over 60. Like, and I don't think we're at a place where we're like it's too late. But I know what I say to women when they walk through the door, and they're like, oh, I should have done this in my 20s. So now this is a different application. What do you say to those women?
Well, first of all, I say BS because uh, we are living longer than we ever have done in history. And just take a moment and look around at what some of the women are doing. And I think so much of maybe previous generations, that's what we were taught, you
Yeah.
know? But the game has changed on so many levels now. And I find that to be very, very exciting. I always say, if you ever doubt God, he always puts us right where we're meant to be. And I think it's exciting to be in this time. It's, midlife women right now are the fastest growing age demographic in entrepreneurship, which I've shared with you before. And we're accomplishing things. We're doing things. And so the only person that ever limits us is us, you know?
Uh-huh.
And there are so many examples of women that have gone before us, and I think you just have to look to that. And again, I always say find a coach, that's someone that can walk beside you and guide you
Mhm.
forward, you know? The oldest woman that ever published a book, I think, is like 99. So books,
Wow.
yeah. I mean, write a book, Books are timeless. Anybody could write a book at any age, So I think a lot of that is no, those are just our own limiting thoughts. And, you know, we can do anything we want to do. I really believe that with everything in me. And my grandfather was a great example. I mean, he didn't sell his restaurant until 90. So I'm like, it ain't over till it's over. So that's it.
I love that. So knowing that your book is called Stepping Forward,
Yep.
tell me a little bit about that. You've kind of made overtures through our time that we're talking, but go a little more in depth about where that came from and what that means in relationship to women and midlife and all of that.
Yeah, kind of funny. I actually took a course. I knew I wanted to write a book, but the one I wrote is not the one I thought I would write. And which is really kind of fun and exciting. I took this course of wanting, they say you could write a book in like 3 months. And I was like, whoa, that's just too fast. I ended up doing it in 6 months. But the whole purpose of it, I would just say like things just always kind of land where they're meant to land. I don't even remember how I came up with the name Step Forward, but I ended up writing a book about my journey and that I use shoes as metaphors, which is super fun.
Mhm.
And a lot of that came from working at Nordstrom and watching women, the way we buy shoes.
Really?
I surprise people how many pairs of shoes I actually have. I love shoe. I have shoe fetish. Anyway, but what these different shoes are that we wear and what they at different seasons in our life, which ones we
Mhm.
need to step into, which, stepping forward with courage, with tenacity, with perseverance. And I gave each shoe a personality. And as I was talking about my journey, I was like, huh, it made it so much easier to describe my situation with a metaphor, took away the emotion, and give that shoe a personality for my own situation, but also to empower other women to step into that shoe as well and give her permission to move forward. So that's kind of how it came. It's kind of fun. Took my creativity and my experience and kind of merged the two together. So yeah, that's how it came about. Isn't that
I
funny?
love it. I love it. I love that you did shoes because, I have a shoe thing too.
Yeah.
And when I found out that I have a back injury, and so I really should not be wearing heels, which was devastating for me because I had all these fabulous shoes. I was like, "Oh my gosh, what am I gonna do?" So now I just have all these really funky shoes, and
Awesome.
it fits my personality a lot more, but it's fun. I mean, yeah, I think
Yeah.
there's something about that. So let's talk about a little more about the reinvention part, because that's a lot of what
Yeah.
you talk about in your book is really establishing that place of like, I don't have to stay in those old tapes of who I am. I can
Right.
kind of go into a space of really being who I want to be. I think it's very uncanny that we do that during menopause when we lose our filters for like giving away all of who we are to everybody else. We're like, no, no, it's me time. No, which I love. So
That's so good.
it's very true. So, but it's also like, it's uncomfortable because for a lot of us, we've done the mothering, we've done the giving, we've done the caretaking, or we're in still a little bit of that sandwich generation and trying to figure out like, how do I actually have who I am and stay true to that? There's like a
Right.
little bit of like a messy middle there when we start to reinvent ourselves. What do you say to that? How do you coach through that?
Well, I definitely, just to kind of go back a little bit, I kind of had these two pivotal moments into this journey. So one was the one I shared, like my long driveway moment. The other was when our son, youngest one, started high school. And that's when I was like, okay, now what? Who am I? What the heck am I going to do? What am I qualified to do? All those questions that I kind of started out at the beginning of this interview with. And I just started saying yes to a lot of things. And I think all of us are kind of on a path differently through reinvention. Some women are coming out of, like I did, empty nest, trying to figure it out. Some women are pivoting in their career. Some women are just, we all start from a different place. And so for me, it was just saying yes, trying all the things. I went and got my real estate license. And then, one thing kind of led to another, helped my mom start another business and learned a whole lot through that. And kind of coming to this place after working for someone else for a while and figuring out what I didn't want to do, much like what you're saying too. We get to this place midlife where we're like, wait, I don't care what other people think anymore. This is who I am. I just, and all of that kind of built upon each other for me. And I think that's with women, depending if I was coaching someone, it kind of depends on where they are in their journey. Are you where I was, where you're just starting out at the very beginning and have no idea? Or are you someone that's had a career and you want to make a career shift? I think those are kind of two different lanes.
Mhm.
And so I coach women, each from that different place. So a lot of women too are even just starting side hustles now too, right? So I'm coaching someone
Yeah.
right now that's doing that. So I think the reinvention journey is just different for all of us. And I think it's empowering. I think that's why it's so exciting for me. And you find it too, right? With what you're doing. It's exciting it's an exciting time to help women feel really good about themselves and that everything we've done adds up to this moment in time, and our experience really is much needed right now in this right, this time of the online e-learning. Coaches are like wanted and desired and respected, and um yeah, so I think, like I said, I would meet someone. If I'm coaching you, where are you on your journey, yeah. I'm excited, honestly, Heather. I say this all the time, but I just love where we are in this age and time. I think midlife women are amazing. I really do, because we get to take all those parts of us, those things that we learned about when we were so insecure in our younger years, and combine it with the part that I don't give a crap what people think anymore.
Mhm. Mhm.
So anyway,
I'm super happy that we didn't have social media.
oh well, there you go. Same.
I always joke that I could never be married to someone who is in the public eye because I would have never gotten vetted. It's crazy.
That's so good. Isn't that just, Scott and I were just talking about this yesterday. It's like, gosh, if social media was around when I was in high school and college, I'd be toast. Like,
Same. Same.
you
Yes.
know? So, but at the same time, it's who makes us who we are. There was so much
Yeah.
freedom in that. And that's the part I think of children growing up today that makes me a little sad is that they don't have the freedoms we had to be a
Mhm.
hot mess at times, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Or they do it online, which is, I think, really hard because that's a vicious platform to put all that vulnerability out there on. I my heart really goes out to the people who have had, some sort of clapback from just being vulnerable, because
yeah,
I think it's challenging. Um,
yeah,
so when we're going to go back to coaching. So when we're talking about coaching, talk to me about some of the mindset practices that you work in and with women on. I know some of the stuff that we've talked about a little bit when I was trying to get through the podcast. And I did a lot of work before we started working together about finding my voice, finding my brand. And that stuff I think was really hard because, my coach was asking me like, well, what do you want to do with this? And where do you want to be? And where do you think you're going? And I'm like, I don't know. I just want to teach Pilates. I have no idea.
mm,
And from there, once she started figuring out what my actual gifting was, she was like, what are you doing? Like, we're going way bigger than Pilates. Like, this is not where we're gonna stay. And
mm.
I think for me that was a really scary place. And so that's the place that I would love for you to speak into is like when somebody's finding their voice and they're finding their brand, so to speak, or what they want their message to be out in the world. What do you help? How do you kind of help them steer that mindset?
Well, first of all, I want to know, even from you, like what was scary about that? I'm curious. I'm going to flip this
Wait a
back for a
minute, this is
second.
my podcast.
I know. What do you think? Because seriously, like, what was scary about that? Like, is it being exposed? Is it putting yourself out there?
All the things, and it still is,
Yeah,
and I've had some different interactions with people who were not a good fit for the studio, and I was like, "No, you're not a good fit," and not
yeah,
because of anything other than I knew my community in the studio and was like, "I don't want the incongruency of that person in this place," more because they lived online. They put everything that they did, ate, drink, sleep, whatever, online. And I'm like, I can't have the people that are in this studio exposed to that because I
yeah,
had people who were like on huge weight loss journeys, who were very vulnerable, very like just finding their voice, finding who they were in a new body. I can't have that person go into their car and be like, oh my God, can you believe what this person did? Like that was
oh
never
yeah,
going to
yeah.
happen. And so there's a vulnerability for me in having to be like a big sister and say,
Mm,
I have to protect these people. And that was a lot of the fear of like people weren't going to like me. I'm like a recovering people pleaser. So there's that.
yeah,
Um, did I have enough of a voice? So definitely the imposter syndrome stuff, because I too don't have a college education. I have certifications in things, and I'm a very curious person. I think you and I should have gone back to school. But I don't wanna be in an institutional environment, it makes me crazy.
yeah,
So, um, it was there was a lot of fear there for me
yeah.
it was unsubstantiated and, um like, I kinda think about, like, how Tony Robbins breaks down the personality structures that we have in our brain, and, like, we have our I was the inner saboteur who for me is like a drag queen sitting in the corner telling me that, my outfit sucks and my makeup sucks and you can't beat your face and what the hell are you doing and you need to learn how to
Right.
walk and girl, what are you doing? Just read me. And, I think, once I figured out that the authentic part of me could have the fuller platform, then that person sat down. So,
Mm,
but that was a really hard road. And I think
yeah.
that's the place that I think a good coach can come in and say, hey, and that's what I would love to hear your input on is like, what do you say when people are struggling in that place or still trying to find their um, most authentic, most powerful part of their person.
First and foremost, like if somebody was really, really struggling, and so much of this just comes in dialogue and communication. And I think as a coach, just like with what your coach did with you, it's in the conversation, paying for, we train ourselves to hear the certain words that they're saying that we pick up on, that then we can come back full circle and help them identify if they're really stuck and struggling. There are other like these personality tests and stuff that I will give someone if they're really, really stuck and can't verbalize. But most women that I help are really pretty open. By the time they come to me, they're wanting this journey. They're wanting to start something. So they're not even in those very, very beginning stages. Often they're a little bit further ahead. And so I think so much for me, where I am now is really helping a woman, an aspiring entrepreneur or one who already is, who wants to be in the online space, is believing she can show up, believe in her voice, and really finding their strengths. That's usually where I will guide someone if they're launching an online business. Like I was just coaching someone today, like, where's your lane? Someone that loves to speak and be on video and bringing that out in them. Will help them either be on a podcast or do videos. Someone that likes to write, I will gear them towards doing, Substack or writing a book. So for me, when I'm at this kind of, starting point, it's kind of like, where are your strengths? Let's draw those out. Let's figure these out first. And it just takes a couple sessions, honestly, sometimes for me to get to that place. And often when they come to me, they already have an idea what they want to do. And then my goal is just to help them execute that. I always find the mindset part to be the most fun. And I don't mean to keep referencing, but I was just on a call with somebody and earlier, and she's like, just thank you so much for believing in me. This has really helped me move forward. And I think for me, I always find their strength as a coach. I find that strength and I lean into it and I just draw that out. And just probably like you said, I'm a gentle pusher. So I think I do it naturally without even really often calling it out. If that makes any sense, if I've answered that question. But I know that that's one of my superpowers, that I'm able to really draw out the best part of women and really lean into that and help her see the strength. And another person that we know that was so shy on camera and, doing her podcast has helped her find her voice. And that just gives me chills as we're talking about it. And believing in her and seeing her kind of where she is. So I think it's that. I'd love to say that I've got like some magic formula, but it's really just showing up and connecting with someone and listening to the words that she's saying. And with Redlo, we're probably going to get to this. Redlo is a word that's older spelled backwards. That kind of came to me in a dream. And it's also now become kind of a mantra for me. It's an acronym and kind of a mission to help women reclaim your confidence, reclaim who you are. What did you put aside? Go reclaim that, right? Embrace your voice. Use it. Who are you now? Speak your truth. Define your path forward. What is it that you want to do now in this season of life? Lead with courage and intention, and then own who you are in this season of life and celebrate it. Celebrate who you are. So that's kind of it. Yeah.
Love that.
Thank you.
When I first heard that, and I forget what it was that we've kind of followed each other online because we don't live in the same area anymore. But I was like, what is she doing? What is she talking about? What is this? And it was like right when your book was coming out. I'm like, what is going on with this?
What is she doing?
I'm like, what is this Redlo thing? And once you started really communicating what it meant, it was really empowering. And I think that is an incredible place to come from. I really appreciate that you've taken that word and kind of turned it on its head and then taken the things that we can do at this phase of life and just make it shine. So I love that.
Thank you. I just want to add one thing to that, because when my whole journey with what I'm doing now started as the podcast. That was kind of a dare for myself. I had taken my very first course, and at the end they're like, "Oh, do this 2-minute intro," and I'm like, "For a podcast?" Well, I listened to podcasts, and I sat in my car and I did this. Spent 2 hours, my plug-in headphones. You've probably heard me talk about all that. And like, wait, I like that, and I just kind of discovered my own gifting, and it's where it started. But along the way, I've changed my podcast name several times, and the last time, I had changed it to Step Forward. And then, because both things live kind of simultaneously in the container. It's Step Forward, which is my book, but Redlo is more my mission. And I know it's goofy, it's not super searchable. But I don't care. That's my sassy midlife self. That's like, I
Mhm.
don't care. People aren't looking for Redlo, but they will search a topic and my name will come up from a topic. So someone told me to change the name and I actually got really depressed. I felt like a part of me had died. Anyway, that's kind of a whole thing, but it is. And a name isn't a name until it becomes something. You think
Yeah.
about Spanx, or you think about Oprah that has Harpo Studios, or you think about Etsy. Etsy's not even a name. It's just a made up name. And anyway, so that's where I come from. I'm way outside the box too much sometimes. So that's kind of a side note. But anyway, thank you for calling that out.
I love it. So tell us more about so we're talking about Redlo. Tell us more about who this Redlo woman is. Tell us about your kind of cohort that you've started and where this is all kind of going.
Sure. Um, so Redlo, we hear in this industry, in the online space or the e-learning space, this whole thing, coaching, who is your ideal client avatar, right? Or your ICA is the fancy name.
Yeah.
Um, and so at one point I gave it a name, but really it's Redlo is my avatar. She is the midlife woman, much like your ideal audience as well. Um, she may or may not be married. I don't really care. Probably been through a divorce or so. That I don't really care about her life. She may or may not have children. Doesn't really matter. But where she is in her life is at this place of self-discovery, trying to figure out what's next for her. And she's pivoting either from being a full-time mom, being now an empty nester, or having a career of her own and like, okay, now I want to do something for myself. I've helped build something for somebody else. What's next for me? And she's really at this place where she wants to have impact. She may
Mhm.
want to leave a legacy of some kind. So often that's why writing a book matters, her journey where she was, where she is now, or doing a podcast. It's doing something with what she's learned along the way to have impact. And like I said, that looks like either coaching, showing up here online, doing a podcast, or writing a book. And yeah. And someone from me, you get stuff done. It's not somebody like who's really waffling and
Yeah.
I mean, I love no disrespect at all, but it's really someone that really wants to move forward with something and do something new. And um anyway, yeah, that's kind of who she is. For a while her name was Stella, but she really is Redlo. So
Um, and then Redlo has developed into a little bit of a network.
oh yes,
Tell
I
tell
forgot
us
that.
more about that.
Yeah, it has. Funnily enough, I mean, the name of my actual business name is Hello Redlo. Um, but the Redlo Women Network kind of came out of a vision for me just to where we are right now with this place in our world. I've taken a lot of courses. Some of them have really advocated networking together. Others have not. I always tell everybody if you're in a community like that doesn't allow you to network with one another, run.
Mhm.
But I have really wanted to create a place, a front door for people to get to know me. I think in our economy where we are, trust is such a huge thing that people are concerned about, So who are you really? Some people have been burned through different courses and things that they've taken. And it's taking longer for people to decide if they like you, if they want to get to know you. Do they believe who you are? Are you who you say you are? And so what I'm finding is that these communities that are evolving, membership communities, are really a great way for people to connect and to grow. And it's been beneficial in my own life. I say that I've had the last couple of years have been the fastest growth that I've had,
Mhm.
and Scott as well, because of the communities we've been involved in, where there's live teaching. And so that's really what that has evolved from, to really empower women and teach what I'm learning live. I don't have it all figured out, but I want to share what I'm learning and help you move forward with your business as well. And then also to connect with one another. I mean, we're still really small. You're a part of it, so we're very small. It started originally as kind of more mindset, and then I
Mhm.
realized no, it really needs to have more of a business focus,
Yeah.
and and having grown up in entrepreneurial family, being a part of like the Chamber of Commerce and all that, I joke that this is kind of the online Chamber of Commerce in a way, but with a lot of mindset and love and connection. So, Anyway, yeah, so that's kinda how it evolved, and I'm really excited about it. We're just still in the early stages, but I'm very, very excited, and anyone that is, wanting to grow an online business, come join us. There'll be I will talk, there'll be live Q&A, and then we're going to have guest speakers too with different topics. But I'm just seeing that this is kind of where it's headed. The
Uh-huh.
courses are still out there, people are still doing them, but there always needs to be some kind of a live component where you can actually talk to the person that's leading and create that connection. And for midlife women especially, and you probably even see in your studio, it's not just coming in and showing up and doing Pilates. It's
Uh-huh.
who's there, you know? It's meeting the girlfriend there. It's talking to you. It's talking about the messy stuff that's going on in their life and how to get beyond it, right?
Mhm.
It's so much more than just the actual experience. It's kind of what happens in that container and in that space.
Yeah.
So,
I feel
that's
like that group is becoming sort of a third place for the people that are in it, in the sense of like all of us have a goal of where we want to go with our businesses and our careers, and we're kind of trying to figure out together, where that goes, but also walking us alongside each other. And entrepreneurship gets very lonely.
Yep.
It's very much a drudge at times. There are moments where I close the door and I'm like, "I'm going to bed, and I don't wanna talk to anybody. I don't
Yeah.
wanna see anybody. I don't wanna know anything. I just wanna do nothing. Hug the
Yeah.
dogs and hug my husband and make my dad laugh, and I'm good." Um, but I think that if we don't have that community, those voices of loneliness get very loud, and I don't think that's a healthy place to be. And part of the reason, like, we've been going through the thing of like figuring out our word, and you and I have both done this for years, where kind of at the end of the year, for me, it's sort of September, and this year I was very behind. But we kind of pick a word of the year that represents the things that we want to accomplish, rather than setting a resolution, which I think, I don't know that how effective that is. And I get the idea of a resolution, but it's also, I think, more about what you've said about intention, where there's a place that we want to get to. So a lot of the goals that I have set for my year this year have a lot to do with connection. That's my word for the year. And
Mm,
it's more about that I spent so much of last year in this place of building the business, because I'd worked from my home for 2.5 years, and that
right.
was great. And then I had about a 6-month stint where we built the business. And then I had a whole year of just working on the business and all the
Mm.
tumult that comes with that, and then realizing, like, my friends don't even know who I am anymore. They're like, "Who is this person? Who is he?" Because we used to do stuff and we don't do diddly
Mhm.
now. Yeah, it was really bad, and so I knew that I didn't wanna deny myself that anymore, and I think part of my, digging myself out of that was listening to podcasts. It really
Mm.
I realized that I wasn't doing enough for myself, that I was constantly pouring out into other people, and so, um part of what I've done for the year is join the network, and then I've also gotten involved with some other networking groups that are very, very specified.
Mm.
Like, I'm not just
Mm.
going to whatever, business networking group and like, "Oh, okay, let's do this." No, I am like, if this is not the place I'm supposed to be, I will know immediately.
Yeah.
And it's very obvious, and I think, you're right that doing life together and being in that place of community, they've studied this in the blue zones. This
Yeah.
is part of longevity, is that if we
Mm.
have community to walk beside us, then we're in a good space. And it's really about being able to be real. There are things that I will share in the women's group that I will never share in another group, because it's not appropriate. But I can already tell there are places where I'm going to be able to be vulnerable and not have to put up the "I'm the business person," front. It's like, "Hey, I'm actually struggling as a woman with this, and this in this whole
Right.
process." And I really think that's so incredibly valuable.
Mm.
Um, and that starts to steer me kind of like to our next like little foray of questions is, um, you know, at this phase of life, we're kind of defining success differently. It's not, um, I think early on for me, it was like I wanted to be a wife and a mother. I wanted to do all the things, and that, went into hell in a handbasket.
Yeah.
And now I get to be all the things that I wanted to be. I didn't even know were
Mm,
there. I didn't know that I was
mm,
allowed to be this, you know, in my first
mm,
marriage, I wasn't allowed to really have a voice. I wasn't really allowed to be who I wanted to be. And I had opinions, but it was like, where's the loudest voice in the room? It's not mine. So I'm
right.
really thankful that I have an amazing husband now who's like, you're going to live out your dreams. And I'm like, okay, what? I don't know what
Mm,
has happened to me, but I'm thrilled. And so, you know, for me to define success is really about being able to be who I really am authentically.
mm,
So that's my question for you is now that you're in this space and in this totally new place in life, because your kids are launched, your kids are
right.
successful. I mean, Allie's on your podcast just like blowing me away. I'm like, Terry, what the
Yeah.
heck? This girl is like on fire. So, and I know the boys are doing great and your other daughter's doing amazing. So what, you know, what is it like for you now that the kids are launched and living in great spaces? Where is success in your brain and your world?
Yeah, I get kind of emotional even thinking about a lot of this. I kind of want to circle back first with one thing that you said because I think it's really beautiful, you know, choosing our words. And I love it that yours is connection. I think I share with that mine's intention, being very intentional with my time. Those I spend time with. I've done things a lot over the years out of courtesy, throughout my whole life out of courtesy. The people pleaser, same. Being really clear on what it is I want, what rooms I'm going to step into. And, you know, I've had lots of years of yeses. This is a year of no. Like,
Wow.
okay, I'm out of these groups just for courtesy. It's no, I can't coach that person or, you know, and being okay and being confident in that and secure in that, taken me
Mhm.
63 years to get to this place or 62 years. But wait, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Um, but and also like part of what you had described about this group, the other vision is giving this a safe space for women to talk about the hard
Mhm.
things because we don't and be vulnerable so that you know we can talk about it's really hard. It gets messy. It gets scary. It gets very lonely. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes a long time. What do you
Yeah.
do when the market is changing and shifting like we're experiencing now with this online space changing so much with AI rolling in? How do we
Mhm.
use it? How do we, if women don't use it, they're going to get left behind. We've got to not be afraid of technology, which so many women are. So all those things, that's a lot diving into the community, what I really want to focus on. And I think we all go through these different seasons of growth where we are, you know, personally and professionally. You know, we have those seasons of moments where we're climbing up the mountaintop and it's a lot of grit, takes a lot of time, you know, to get there. We kind of go silent and how lonely that can be. And so still making sure you're taking care of yourself and having people along the way with you to help you get there or someone that even says, "Hey, I've been there. I get it," you know?
Mhm.
Um, and I always say too, as you know, I have less fear about the entrepreneurial space just because I grew up as one,
Mhm.
but it's not as easy as people think. And Stephen Bartlett just wrote an amazing article, if you can find it. He did one on
Mhm.
Facebook about this. Like, you know, so many influencers and all that on social media make it seem like, "Ooh, it's so easy." No, it's often you're working. Scott has to come in here all night and like close your computer. I love it
Right.
so much. I'll just keep working. 12 hours feels like 7 minutes. I think he describes it that way. It can be much lonelier. It's much harder. You know, you've got payroll to meet. You know, it's just, it's a beast. It's a beast. It's
Mhm.
not as, ooh, this is all your time and you're only working 20 hours a week. No, it's really
No.
not the reality. Okay. So talking about all of that and kind of so back to your question to what does success mean to me now? Success has always meant um, relationship and connection to those I love, first and foremost, of friends included in that. Um, as I shared in the beginning of the podcast, I very, very open, very embracing, very accepting of a lot of people. I'm so not
Mhm.
judgmental. But I also have a hard time sometimes being vulnerable with where I've been and who I am and
Mhm.
letting people in. A lot of that has to do with my own childhood and trauma and things like that. And
Mhm.
so for me, success now, much like you, means doing what I love, the legacy I'm going to leave. I will say empowering my children, particularly my girls. They have been my kids all along the way have always been my biggest cheerleaders.
Yeah.
Sending me things you probably heard on the podcast with Allie, you know, sending me things, cheering me on. Hey, mom, try this, do this.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think success now is really empowering other women to believe how amazing they are, no matter your age, and spending time with those I love and letting go of relationships and things that aren't healthy that, that people pleasing part of me
Sure.
is gone. And I care so much less about what people think of me. That's a huge moment of success and and growth for me to care. And I love that part about being midlife, that I don't care, take it or leave it. This is who I am. I will always be kind, but I'm not going to just show up because anymore, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And I think leaving a legacy, having my podcast, having a book, hoping I've left some impact on the world and helped every woman feel seen and heard and valued and reminded that she belongs. She's probably more amazing than she ever thought she was. And if I can have some voice in that, whether how I show up and speak on a podcast or whether I'm coaching you or you read my book and you feel that, then I will have accomplished what I want to accomplish now in this part of my life. And
Right.
also, ooh, it's going to make me cry. Hmm, Success means for me to be proud of who I am. That all
Oh,
those years of things that I thought where I failed, uh-uh, those were just a setup for where I am now, to be able to have an impact in someone else's life and never be judgmental, but to be an encourager and a support. And no matter what you've been through, always offer hope that tomorrow's a new day, that we always have a chance to begin again and start from where we are, and that nothing is ever lost, and that it all accumulates. I think the only thing that can hold us back at times is if we're not willing to look at ourselves and
yeah.
to we've all made mistakes, and none of us would be where we are if we hadn't in our life. And for me, success feels like where I am right now. Like, it feels so good. And to have Scott doing what he's doing, to see the growth in our marriage. We went through a really hard time, as I share in my book. Um, he has become what your Nate is, in that empowering and cheering me on in this capacity and allowing me to have my voice. And it's
Mm.
been beautiful to see that for both of us. So there
I
you
love
go.
that. I love that. There's so much in what you said that is huge from the standpoint of entering into midlife. There's so much of what we don't do for ourselves early on. And
Mhm.
and thank God that our society has changed, that we are not, worried about whether or not our husband's going to open a bank account for us or be able to help us start a business. Like, we get to do those things now. Um we get to have our own credit cards, like all the
Oh,
things that women didn't get to do, our parents didn't get to do, our mothers. I don't know how your mom was an entrepreneur, and, like, I don't know how she did it, because
yeah.
she couldn't, like, financially, she wasn't able to, like, allowed to do stuff, so she probably just did it anyways, you know?
I
That's
think
all
my
I
grandfather had to co-sign for her, to be honest.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. See, that's incredible. Um we get to do all that stuff today, and like, we've taught our kids to not live under the same dogma that we grew up in. And um I don't want to get into the weeds of all the other aspects of that, because I just don't want to do that. But I think there's something really important in recognizing that your journey is part of what makes you who you are. And there's a lot of catharsis in that. And I think too many of us get caught in that um muck and mire of, like, oh, I failed at this, or oh, my marriage fell apart, or oh, my relationship with my kids is strained, or oh, I didn't accomplish all the things, and oh, I didn't, when the reality is, what did you do that got you to where you are now, and what do you have that isn't in everybody else, that is available to share with the world? I mean, that's such a huge
Mm,
place to come from, and that's really what you're saying, and I really appreciate that, because I think that's
mm,
a totally different place than, well, I have this and I wanted to do this and I want to tick off these boxes and this was always it. Yes, you absolutely have that, but it's a different, there's so much richness in what you're saying from the
Mm,
standpoint of, like, it's really coming from this place of giving and a
mm,
different way of giving, like, not denying yourself in that giving, and that's
mm,
huge. I don't think we get I think our kids probably are better at that than we were,
for sure.
but I don't think we get there without a lot of tumult at this stage, I don't and I can't wait to see what Ellie turns out like in 10 years.
She
She's
well,
so
just so you know, she's actually this morning, she's in a car, she's accepted a new job, she's headed back to New York. Um,
she did it!
I literally was in tears this morning just
Oh.
because I just told her how proud I am, and I said, "I think what's amazing, Allie, is that here you are in your 30s. You tried something, it didn't work. How awesome
Yeah.
that you can pick up and move. I wish I would have learned those lessons, you know,
Yes. Yeah.
I am much better at adapting and changing now. I've had to because of the amount of times we've moved and changed and all the things.
Mhm.
For a long time, that was not a great part of me. I've always had I'm complicated, maybe like all of us, but I love risk. And there's other areas of my life where I'm like, eh. I've done some crazy things, but when I told her, like, I was just excited for her. She doesn't like being a big fish in a small town. She loves that growth, and when she decided she was
Mhm.
going to move to Texas, Scott and I had these discussions, and I said, "Oof, um, I just don't see her living there, but hey, I'm gonna cheer her on and support her." So, anyway, thank you for mentioning her. Yeah, where she's gonna be in 10 years. Yeah.
Amazing.
I
Amazing.
joke in the pot you heard me, like, I always just say, "When I grow up, I wanna be Allie." So,
Yeah.
um, you know, I think the impact, even on a generation like that, and with what you're doing too, like I was enjoying your video that the different age groups that come into your studio, so many probably come in because they think it's their body and they want to get in shape. But as they do that, the layers go down is so much more, isn't it? You
Yeah.
know?
It is. It really is. There is, and I work with a lot of women. I also work with some men, and men have their own stuff, and
Mm,
I'm very respectful of that because men are a whole different, like, approach. You can't just kinda come at them, but I feel like with women, it's very much a sisterhood, and that's really what I've tried to
mm,
foster in person in the studio, is that sisterhood of, "We're in this together. Your journey,
mm.
we're gonna respect your journey. We're gonna do what your body will let you do, and we're gonna make those transformations." And being a support, but also, a big sister also kinda tells you the truth from time to time, and she's like, "Listen, I love you, but, we gotta do this." And that's huge.
Mm,
I don't know, like, I've always been a girl's girl, but I don't know that I had, um, my own kind of fortitude in myself to feel really strongly like I do now, and I think part
mm,
of that is this business. I don't know that I would
mm.
have, had this character development had I not just dug my heels in and said, "I'm gonna freaking do this," and gone through the motions, and I'm still learning. I mean, you can't
Yeah.
be a sticks and bricks business owner and not go through muck and mire, and there's stuff that I'm just like, "How is this, even a thing? Like, how is this stupid thing that I'm dealing with even an issue and as a small business owner? Like, really? I'm just trying to teach Pilates and have people have a good time. Like, just let them move their body, let them eat well, do all the things." So, you know, but I'm like you where for me, the success is seeing someone who never trusted their body, and I very
Mhm.
gently come up behind them like you do and just, like, kind of push a little bit, and then that person trusts their body, and they're like, "I'm doing this. I could never do this before." And,
Yeah.
to me, that's beyond impactful. I cry
Mm.
in the studio. The girls always crack up. They're like, "Oh, here she goes." And because
That's awesome.
that's why you do what you do. I mean, it's to see the transformation in somebody else, and I think there's a richness in that when we're in a coaching or, teaching or facilitating kind of, profession, there's that space, and
Yeah.
that's way more rewarding to me than the financial stuff. Yes, I have to have the financial stuff, but, um, that stuff is the stuff that helps me sleep at night,
Mm.
really.
I love
That's
that,
the
Heather. I
huge
mean, that's
part.
just beautiful. I think For me, it's so much fun to watch you grow. And like you said, we've been following each other on social media for a long time. And I'm like, wait, whoa, she's got a studio. She have a business. And you were the first person I interviewed that actually had a brick and mortar business. And so, the challenges at times are a little bit different, but at the same time, they're also very similar. And it's been so much fun to watch you. And I think what I love so much about you too, I mean, you have at heart huge compassion, a lot of compassion and empathy, but you also, can tell the truth and speak the truth. And we need both parts of ourselves as we're leading others and guiding them. And I always love how Brenda Burchard says, you're paid to push.
Yeah.
You're not there to be, you are there to be a friend at times, but like you said, a good friend or a sister is going to tell you the truth and be honest, or you wouldn't be doing your job, you know? So I love that about you. I think you have a really healthy balance with that and leading for women forward, with their bodies and kind of yourself helping them discover who they are too.
Big time, because there's a place, we go through it when we go through the plan. There's a place where there's a space of resistance anytime that we make
Mm,
change. And I mean, that
right.
it's like you having to move. You're like, absolutely not. So, there's a place of just natural resistance in our person that's just kind of DNA hardwired. If we can say, I'm going to do this regardless of how I feel, that I'm just going to
Mm,
show up. And like I joke that you can drive to the studio and cuss me out the whole time that you're having to come to the studio to have to do this workout, or you can be excited. But when people finally figure out that it's actually really fun to
yeah.
feel that strength and like that, like I can do stuff with my body, when they figure that out, it's life
Mm,
changing. And
mm,
I've had more people who I've had to have that very gentle but direct conversation of, I totally understand how you feel that it's inconvenient to come to the studio, that it's hard to get into classes, that it doesn't feel good to have to put on your clothes after work and do all that stuff. But look at where you are.
mm.
And I can't come and get you, but if you get here, I promise you're going to feel different. And that
So great.
that is huge. And that's the same thing that I do with functional nutrition. And that's what you do. I mean, it's
Yeah.
when we went through going and starting the podcast, because I had you help me,
Yeah.
um, I was very nervous, more nervous I was very intimidated by the tech, which I shouldn't be. My husband's in IT. He's a data scientist. I should know better. Because I could
And
just
you're
go,
better and you're better at it than you give yourself credit for.
it's true. It's true. But, now I kind of figure it out. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to do this. But I knew, because I'd spent a year just doing stuff scared and putting myself out there and putting myself on social, that it wasn't going to be that bad to be on a podcast. It's more been the concern has always been, do I have another thing to say?
Mm,
And the more that we do this, the more we do have to say. And then people find you, or you find people. At my best people are the people that I know, or people introduce
right.
me to, that they say, hey, you've got to talk to this person because they really should be on with you, or they've got things that apply to your podcast. And I love that. I think that's really magical.
Yeah.
So I love
I
all of that.
agree. And I just want to say, I mean, it was really fun to help you. I mean, that's the other thing I do. I do help women start their podcast. I still believe in it, so much. I think podcasting is just so great for creating that connection again as these online businesses, the online space kind of changes. It's just a great way for people to get to hear your voice, who you are, what you do, stories from other men and women, what they do, how they transform, because you can't do that in a 30-second reel. But you
Right.
can go deep. And some of the top podcasts aren't even edited, like Joe Rogan. I mean, he just gets on here and talks and interviews people. And I think one of the things that you do really, really well, Heather, on your podcast, I remember a common friend that we have. She's like, wow, Heather is so smart. I'm like,
Oh,
and so well spoken. And you do a really, really good job with your podcast. I listen to your podcast all the time. I
no.
love it. I think you give a lot of really powerful information for women and men that are, trying to figure out this midlife and the changes in our bodies and freaking hormones and sweating. And not sleeping and weight gain and all the things.
All the things.
All the things. And plus you had that journey yourself,
Ugh.
how you transformed your own body, and nothing speaks louder than your own personal transformation, right? That's the
So true.
best thing ever, because you understand where they are. Just like your clients in the studio that don't want to show up. Well, you're like, okay, hey babe, been there. I know what that's like. Get your butt in
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. It is. It's very much that way. And I do feel like there's a lot of power in telling your story. I also, because I've been sober for, Lord have mercy, in March it will be 21 years. Um,
Woohoo!
yeah.
Amazing, Heather.
Yeah. And,
Amazing.
I know that we have to do stuff scared. I know that transformation starts with just being willing.
Mm,
And I know that a lot of times, um, people think, well, if I change, I can never go back. Well, okay, so what's the worst that's going to happen there? What
right,
is the actual worst? And I also know that if we tell on ourselves and we tell our story, then the power of somebody else kind of trying to embarrass us or do something nefarious with our story is gone. Like,
right.
I can tell my story now of what my first marriage was like, and not be worried that the people who are still angry at me for that are gonna have any power over me. That's
Right.
that's on them. At this point, that narrative is
Mm,
long gone. That has nothing to do with me. And
mm,
that's huge. Like, to live in that truth is a great place of overcoming. And again, midlife. Like, there was just a place where I was like, I'm done. I'm done worrying about how this looks to everybody else.
right.
And I mean, I just think that where women can go at this place is huge. It's limitless.
It is. And I think being a voice that comes from that place of being able to be vulnerable and share who you are, share your story, just makes us, just helps people connect with us in a deeper way, like you say. I mean, I don't want to learn from somebody that's not willing to be vulnerable and tell their story, because we all have our stuff. Like, we all have our stuff. Let's just be real. And it's what we do with it, like I said earlier, So I love that about you. And I see so much growth in you. It's so exciting. It's why you relate to the people you help so much, Same. Like, been there, had an eating disorder, done crazy stuff. My marriage almost failed at one point. So it's like, we get to this place and we're like, okay, I've been there. I see you. I'm not going to judge you, you know? How
Yeah.
freeing is that to help
Yeah.
people? And then
It's
not to give a crap what anybody else thinks. Either accept me as I am now or say la vie.
Well, and that goes into kind of what happens in this space as you're starting to have more exposure as a person and putting yourself out there. There's definitely that place of you repel or attract. There is not
Right.
anything in between. Nobody can be lukewarm. They either really like you or they're like, yeah, I'm not into you. "Hmm, okay, I'm not your cup of tea. Guess what? There's more tea over there. It's
Right.
okay.
Right. And I think that's a really, really powerful statement. I think there's a book out, I can't remember, like The Courage to be Disliked, I think it's called. And it's
Yes.
really, we have to be in that place. Like, and I think when we're first starting, we're like, oh, and in our younger years too, we want people to like us, but that part of
Yeah.
me, I could just give a big shout out. I'm so proud of her. She no longer cares if you like me or don't like me. This is who I am today. Been known to swear a lot, talk like a truck driver sometimes,
Yes.
have my luggage tag says badass. I'm quite proud of that. There you go. So
I love that.
no more
All of
Pollyanna perfect. She doesn't live here anymore,
Exactly. Oh my gosh,
right?
please. She's gone. She is
Yeah.
gone. And, like, I remember you in those years. I remember that
Mm,
person, and I
yeah.
love that we've gotten to grow together and remain friends. It's huge to me,
Mm,
and, part of the reason that I wanted to ask you on the podcast was because I'm gonna start to cry, because I know the power of your transformation, and I know that
mm,
that brings in so much richness to what you do. And I know that
mm,
there's so many women who have fantasies. We all have fantasies of, like, yes, we have our fantasy of wanting to be on an island with a cabana boy and a lovely drink and massages until we, can't feel like a
yeah.
big fat noodle. But Um, I think we also have dreams that we deny in ourselves, and that
Mm,
um, part of what you do is give people the ability to bring those to life. And so I
mm,
really, that was why I wanted to have you on, because I know a lot of the women who listen to this are still trying to figure out, do I love the career I'm in? Do I want to retire from this, or do I really want to do that thing that I, have kind of had in the back of my head? And
yeah.
I say, if you're waiting to do that, don't do it now. Don't wait.
Mm,
Call Terry and set up a time to
mm.
have a discovery chat, and she will very gently hold your hand and kick your tuck.
I love that, and thank you. And also just I don't wanna leave this without saying too, because I do share this in the book too, just, Scott and I've had incredible success and an incredible failure, financially too, just from some things that he went through, and I think I've experienced so much in my life that I think what I say, even in the book is that this is what makes me relatable because
Mhm.
I've been in the mountaintop, I've been in the valleys, on many levels, emotionally, financially, at one point in our marriage and just a lot and holding things together, trying to figure it out, figuring out what's next in so many ways and discovering my strength and my voice. And so I appreciate you sharing that. And I'm just grateful our paths have crossed and stayed connected, so to speak, all
Yeah.
these years. And it's been so much fun for me to see where you are and what you're doing and the success of your studio and what you're doing online now with your plan and your podcast and the impact that you're having. It's remarkable. And if I can be, again, in this situation where I can be a tiny source of encouragement to help you get to where you want to go and have the freedom in a lot of ways, wow. You know, uh, that's a win for me. That's success is helping someone else succeed. So,
Well, you do that.
yeah.
You do that. When I drive to work and I don't wanna go, I turn on Terry, and I'm like, "Okay, Terry, tell me what I'm gonna do today."
Awesome. I'm my one of my next podcasts is going to be. I was doing this whole thing. I woke up this morning thinking about this because I was dumping a bunch of stuff in at one time, and it said back to me, "You're a damn miracle, Terry." So that's going to be a
Aw.
title of my podcast. And I'm like, I was just telling somebody the other day, "You're a damn miracle," and it just feels like that. All of us to be here now in this time, all the stuff we've been through in our life, we're all a damn miracle, and I just celebrate that, Let's just celebrate that we have arrived in this place and time and we've survived a lot of crap.
Yeah.
And we can keep
Yeah.
moving forward, you know?
It's
We can keep
it's
stepping
amazing.
forward.
Exactly. Exactly.
So,
So
anyway.
that's what this is about, stepping forward into that midlife moment and just really living into who you are. And it's so special. I cannot begin to thank you enough for being willing to do this.
Mm.
This is like my favorite. Terry is one of my favorite people on the planet, if you haven't figured that out
Mm.
yet. This is a totally different podcast episode for us, but I really feel that this was important to be said. It's things to be said, and really a great message for a lot of our listeners who needed to hear, that this isn't the end. This is just the beginning. And with our lifespan going the way it is, if you're coming to see
Yeah.
me and you're doing Pilates and getting your nutrition dialed in, then you need to have a second career.
Ex- exactly. Or write a book or start a
It's
podcast.
something, exactly.
Something.
So,
Uh,
Terry, how do people get in touch with you?
Many ways. Number one, they can find me on Facebook, Terri Mullen. They can find me on LinkedIn. They can listen to the podcast, the Redlo Women podcast. I'll give you all these links. They could also, if anybody is interested in joining the Redlo Women Network, the price is going up though tomorrow, the first, whatever the first is.
Smart.
But it's very reasonable. I priced it that way for women coming in. We're still in the founding stage, but it's just going to be a great community. And yeah, those are probably the best ways to reach me. I'd love for you to listen to my podcast. If you want to go buy my book, Step Forward, it's available on Amazon. So go grab it. So
There you
thank
go.
you. I just celebrate you too. Thank you for having me on here today. Thank you for letting me walk beside you to help you launch your podcast. Thank you for being a part of the Redlo Women Network. You're a powerful voice for women too. And I'm just so proud of you. So thank you. This has been a blast to do this today. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, the best, the best. I mean, we could go for hours, but we'll bore everybody.
Yeah.
We've covered
And I
it.
hope there's some takeaways. I think we covered it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
keep stepping forward.
Yeah. Amen. All right, y'all. Thank you. And I will put everything in the show notes to get a hold of Terry. And I hope this was worth it to you and that you found a place where you can reinvent yourself in midlife.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for listening and asking the question, hey, Heather, what about? I hope we inspired you to create a lifestyle for longevity. You deserve it. If something sparked a shift for you today, don't keep it to yourself. Pass it to a friend. Leave us a review to help others find us. Be sure to hit that follow button so you never miss a moment of real talk and real transformation. Ready to start your wellness journey? Visit theexquisitehouse.com to join us in the studio or learn more about The Plan, our signature program for nutrition, movement, and midlife transformation. And remember, keep asking questions. I'll be here with answers.